It was promoted as a local derby with a difference at Lyallcar Oval last night. Northern New South Wales Grand Final winners Highfields up against the Newcastle Breakers for the right to continue in the Waratah Cup. In their first match of the 96-97 season, Newcastle tried gamely to break through, but the early season skills were rusty. Some had lost interest only minutes in, but after trying to weave their own brilliance early on, the Breakers then tried to smash their way to the net, but Highfield's defence was rock solid. The home side too did its share of attacking, hoping to continue on from their success in the NBN Soccer League. The Wolves went wide after 15 minutes and everyone chased the cross. An own goal put the Breakers down 1-0, and while they levelled to take the match to a penalty shootout, they lost the spot kicks 5-4. Highfield's win earned them a quarter-final showdown with Sydney United on Sunday. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
There was time for some last-minute sound checks and a final practice run last night at the Conservatorium as the students prepared for tonight's performance. To be held at the Conservatorium's concert hall, the performance will raise money for new equipment. With recent budget cuts to the university, there is now the need to step up fundraising activities. The students will perform songs from well-known musicals such as Phantom of the Opera and West Side Story. The show starts at 8 o'clock.
The Newcastle Wildfires held their final training session of the year last night. 5 wins and 1 draw this season has them well out of finals contention, but that hasn't stopped their hunger for victory.
Clubs seem to give everything to the last game, their last hurrah, so it should be a good game. But if we can get a decent share of possession, we'll give them a run for their money.
A sure bet is the under-19s. They play the major semi-final this weekend against Gordon.
They're well drilled, they're very keen, and it's great to see.
It's grand final time in the Newcastle Rugby Union, and the big question on everyone's lips, can Merewether Carlton end the charge of the Singleton Bulls?
I think we've come close to them in 3 of the 4 games that we've played them over the last 2 years, and hopefully we'll go one step better tomorrow.
Singleton has won its last 39 matches undefeated since the 1994 Grand Final. Victory over the Waratahs in the major semi-final earned the Bulls a week's rest, and with Steve Merrick calling the shots at halfback, they enter the match raging favourites.
He's possibly the best halfback in Australia at the moment, and he's playing club rugby, so it's a bit daunting.
The main game kicks off at Passmore Oval at 3:15. Jonathan Upton, NBN News. After first grade's disappointing season in the Optus Cup, the Knights reserve grade team had the task of flying the Newcastle flag at this year's final series, and while they had the better of the first term, Illawarra halfback Glenn Eyre backed himself, the intercept and a dash to the try line yielding the first points of the match. 7 minutes before the break, the Knights again had Illawarra on the rails. This time Brett Kamali made the Steelers pay for a 2-point half-time lead. The second half was all Illawarra. A try made it 10-8, and Malcolm really saw another season sliding away before Andrew Tangatoa was presented with a penalty right on the siren to lock it all up. Mistakes and reckless tackles didn't help Newcastle's cause in extra time as the Steelers posted another 2 tries to advance in the final series, while the Knights reserve graders joined the firsts in thinking about next year. Jonathan Upton, NBN News Late Edition. Undefeated in 39 matches, Singleton was at unbackable odds for today's NRU decider. Only minutes in, a Greens mistake and the Bulls almost made them pay. Singleton spent the first half camped in Merriweather's territory, champion halfback Steve Merrick consistently providing the backs with quality possession, and the Bulls looked like breaking through. Some heat in the scrum and Michael Davis was given an early shower. The Greens reduced to 14 men, and while 1 try was disallowed, no problems when Brad Schultz made a bust down the far side touchline to put the defending premiers on top. 5-0 and the floodgates looked set to open, and they did. More quality ball through the backs and Tony Scott finished off. And when the forward pack also got involved, Michael Maher made it 17-0. Schultz scored 2 more first half tries and it was all smiles in the Singleton camp, the Bulls deserved winners of the grand final. In other results, Wanderers won second grade, Merriweather over Waratahs in thirds, while Lake Macquarie beat Hamilton in the under-19s. In her first match since Atlanta, Natalie Ward was back with the Castle Lakers at Stevenson Park this afternoon, her efforts with both bat and ball helping the home side to a 2-0 lead at the top of the second innings. Buoyed by her return, the locals did everything right, going on to record a commanding victory. In the Newcastle Men's Hockey Premiership, Uni beat the Tigers, while Souths were 2-goal winners over Wests. With both teams already assured of a berth in the finals, the result wasn't important, the sides taking their chances throughout. Semi-finals start next week.
The group were heading down Combine Road northwest of Wingham in a tabletop truck at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Approaching Stony Creek Bridge, the driver failed to make a turn correctly, ploughing down a 7-metre embankment into about a metre of water. It's believed there were 3 people riding in the back, a 10-year-old amongst those hurt. All were treated at the scene for various injuries, then taken to Manning Base Hospital. At this stage, the cause of the crash has not yet been confirmed.
Accident investigation team from Port Macquarie have been informed and will be attending, and they'll be conducting investigations.
Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
It was another slow start for the Falcons at the Newcastle Entertainment Centre last night, down 7 with 5 minutes left in the first quarter. But the home side rallied and Butch Hayes bombed to bring the Falcons back and the Feathers to their feet. New boy Ben Melmoth made his official NBL debut minutes into the second term and the Giant had an immediate impact. Still down, Newcastle had a fight on its hands. David Van Dyke found the ring before Ben Melmoth produced his knockout blow and the Falcons took a 3-point lead to the main break. Returning from half-time, David Van Dyke slammed home the locals' advantage. But with less than 10 minutes left, the Falcons went to sleep. A big last quarter from the 36ers changed the lead, Adelaide consolidating its position in the 8, while Newcastle must win all of its remaining matches to make the cut.
Mount Penang overlooking Gosford will be the site for the Flower Extravaganza, which will be a huge step up from the traditional Spring Floral Festival and also include sporting and cultural activities.
It's like the Brisbane Expo, only instead of buildings, it'll be gardens. Gardens of the world, gardens of 30, 40, 50 countries, the regions of Australia, specialty gardens, bonsai gardens.
Former Federal Environment Minister and Labor stalwart Barry Cohen has been one of the show's chief supporters, recently persuading both the federal and state governments of the festival's benefits. Today he showed several people around the site.
The state government has provided the land, which that is worth about 25 million. We're hoping, and the Prime Minister made an announcement, that the Commonwealth will support it.
The rest of the money will come from both local and overseas industry groups. The 2000 festival is expected to generate 18,000 jobs and attract more than 5 million visitors. The festival will begin in August 2000 and run for 6 months. Emma Siossian, NBN News.
It was a disastrous start for the Castle Lakers, playing against the defending premiers at Stevenson Park. The locals were outclassed early on, down 5-0 at the bottom of the first innings. Boasting the best form also in this year's league with a 38-11 for and against record, Liverpool mounted the pressure again in the second innings, notching up another home run. Before Liverpool's Canadian import pitcher Colin Campbell destroyed the home side with the ball, and the Lakers couldn't haul in the margin at the end, a 10-run loss. In the quarter-final of Soccer's New South Wales Waratah Cup, Sydney United was too strong for Highfields. Dora Creek has beaten Swansea in the Lower Hunter Rugby League. Today's 28-22 victory puts them in next weekend's grand final against Woodbury. No Sunday morning sleep-in for front runners of all types today at Carrington. Almost 200 athletes were sent off on a 5.5 kilometre trek in and around the suburb. Setting the early pace in the men's division, Wayne Briston and Darren Mewett, both on track for race record time. Catherine Schwartz led the women's contest, while back in the field some issued a serious challenge, while the goal for others was simply to beat their personal best. Briston put 13 seconds on the field to run away with the men's prize in 16 minutes and 20 seconds, while Schwartz held on to her lead to finish in 2022.
A lot of work.
Run at the University of New South Wales as part of its Open Day activities, the challenge certainly tested the students' abilities to use solar energy efficiently, and everyone was relieved it was a sunny day.
At the moment they haven't got any complicated electrical circuit. They're just collecting the power from the sunlight, and that's converted through the cells and then goes straight into a small DC motor, which is a special low friction bearing motor.
Merewether High School did well with this entry, months of work paying off when they scored the prize for Best Country School.
We had been seeking sponsorship earlier on and we hadn't got anything coming through, and so when the money did come through, that was when they really started to work towards the end, and so it was probably, we're hoping that next year's going to be a better run.
Glendale High School's enthusiasm meanwhile won that team an encouragement award as they too managed to finish in the top 20. Whitebridge High was the other local school to enter, winning the prize for the best all-boys team. Macquarie Boys High in Sydney took out the challenge. It's hoped the event, to be run again next year, will continue to promote greater interest in the field of alternative energy sources. Emma Ossian, NBN News.
The smile says it all. This is the face of an Australian swimming star. At just 17, Renee Connolly has come within a whisper of the Aussie record for the 100 backstroke. Her win at the state championships getting everyone talking.
The times that she swam on the weekend have placed her in the top 5 in the world.
The Newcastle swimmer missed out on gaining selection for the Atlanta Games earlier this year after a lacklustre final at the Olympic trials.
I was disappointed. I just wanted to get in and do my best at the Olympic trials, and I didn't do my best.
Who knows where her best could take her? With Nicole Stevenson retiring, Renee seems destined to be Australia's best backstroker. She's not taking anything for granted. There is plenty of hard work ahead.
After seeing the Olympics this year and, Sydney 2000.
A special ceremony in Newcastle today emphasising the importance of both academic and spiritual learning as hundreds of primary and high school students and their families gathered at Christchurch Cathedral. It was the traditional Education Week service, and after a welcome from the district school superintendent, Laurie Tabart, it was time for some individual school performances.
Tell everybody, I gotta tell everybody, I gotta tell everybody, I feel good.
At Wallsend, there was a celebration of a different kind as the students of Plattsburgh Primary enjoyed a multicultural feast, reminding them there are all kinds of people in the world. While some went for the more adventurous meals, others were content to stick with what they knew. In Newcastle's Hunter Street Mall, the Marching Koalas school band gave a stirring lunchtime performance, drawing a crowd as they showed their skills. High schools in the Maitland district meanwhile took on a different challenge, students attempting to create the world's largest continuous pavement artwork done by children. The theme of the display is Windows on My World, and the students were happy to put their artwork on public display. The area's primary school students will complete the work on Thursday. Education Week activities continue at schools throughout the Hunter for the rest of the week. Emma Siossian, NBN News.
With restoration of the old railway workshops complete, work begins next month on landscaping the Heritage Precinct. The works will bring the area back to life.
It'll be one of the most exciting completions of the work in this area for the heritage buildings, bringing them to life for public use in the next 6 to 8 months.
Aside from greening the area, it will be paved to create a pedestrian corridor between each building. So after nearly 4 years' work, the public will be able to use the precinct's planned restaurants and entertainment areas.
From the middle of next year, we hope to have the buildings starting to be used for various activities as part of the bicentenary celebrations.
And motorists driving along Wharf Road may wonder what is happening in the former rail yards, where major earthworks are underway. The site is being cleared for future development. However, success of the site remains with developers willing to put money into the honeysuckle area. Blake Doyle, NBN News. With so much at stake in this weekend's World Championship bout, things are unusually diplomatic in both camps. A news conference today saw no grandstanding, just a mutual respect between Zhu and Bergman.
I've seen a few fights of Jan, and like I said, he's very quick, very smart, he's got very good experience.
Bergman and his camp have come to Newcastle confident, and rightly so. Bergman is unbeaten in 32 fights, 24 by knockout. They're also defiant, claiming the appointment of Australian referee Billy Mayles could go against them. In the other corner, the Zhu camp has a cool approach. Zhu admits Bergman will be his toughest opponent yet, but trainer Johnny Lewis has every faith in his boxer.
I don't really care how he comes out because I've got great faith in this kid next to me, and whatever their ace is, I'm sure this little kid here will trump it.
The World Junior Welterweight title will be decided at the Entertainment Centre on Saturday night. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
The fire in Regal Way, Valentine, tore through the $300,000 home in October nearly 2 years ago. The property was completely destroyed. Newcastle Coroner's Court heard today that scientific evidence proved petrol had been splashed in the building. Before the court, Paul Lindsay Clifford, a former policeman and SAS Army officer. He had lived in the Regal Way home with his wife Mary Ann until they had split up in December '93. The pair had been unable to sort out a settlement after they separated. Tony McGuinness, assisting the coroner, asked Mr Clifford, "I put it to you, you said to your wife repeatedly, you said you'd rather see the house burn than to let her have it." No. Mr Clifford produced a document from a Gold Coast hotel showing he had booked into the hotel on the night of the fire. The court heard that the insurance on the Regal Way home had lapsed just weeks before the blaze. Mr Clifford denied he had lit the fire in a spiteful act to get back at his wife. The case was adjourned until December 4th. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
It could be Holly and Sally was trying to swerve to miss the dog. It could be. So, I mean, I don't know whether. I mean, that's true for a lot of people, and especially.
Just growing vegetables can sometimes be a challenge. Cultivating a profitable crop is even harder. Now there are warnings current methods of veggie growing are taking a heavy toll on the environment. Horticulturists from New South Wales Agriculture say farmers either make a profit and damage the environment or take care of the land and risk their income. Researcher Tony Wells says over-fertilising and multi-cropping are leading to a critical build-up of nutrients.
Vegetable growing is inherently risky to the environment because the conventional way to grow vegetables is to cultivate the soil a lot, to use large amounts of fertiliser.
5 plots at the department's research station are being used to trial alternative growth methods.
Some of the things we're trying here are growing or using organic methods. Another way is we use a black plastic mulch over the surface and we apply nutrients and water through drip irrigation underneath the plastic.
Amanda Bolger, NBN News. The High Court is Newcastle Council's last hope of recouping around $10 million, which it paid to the Newcastle Workers Club.
I'm relieved and I'm very pleased that the High Court has seen fit to grant us leave to appeal.
The Workers' Club sued the council for damage and loss of income caused by the 1989 earthquake, claiming council was liable because it had approved rebuilding work. Council settled out of court, assuming its insurer, GIO, would cover the cost, but GIO refused, saying the claim was lodged after the period of insurance. What followed was a court battle which is still going on. In February, the Court of Appeal found in favour of GIO. Now council is hoping the High Court will reverse that decision.
We just had to keep on going with this because $10 million means something like a lot of infrastructure, a lot of goods and services that we can't provide the people of Newcastle. And it would have been appalling if we couldn't do what we're set up to do, which is to provide those goods and services.
To cover the unexpected and massive cost, council has had to substantially rework its budget. It's cut back on staff, reduced its use of materials and supplies and raised rates. It also plans to sell $5 million in property. The debt has been a massive burden for the city, which now only the High Court can remove. But even if it does find in council's favour, it's not expected to be for some time. The High Court is not expected to hear the matter until late next year or even into 1998. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
The Senate inquiry is looking at the effect importing chicken meat could have on the industry in Australia. A group of protesters picketed the inquiry in Maitland. They're concerned the biggest industry in the Patterson Valley could be devastated if cheaper meat is imported.
So our factories, our farms and our future.
We'll be losing our jobs and it'll do a lot of damage to us because it'll be taking money away from our imports, so some factories could be closed down.
But the biggest concern to emerge from today's evidence is the role quarantine will play in keeping diseased meat out of Australia. A disease known as Newcastle disease can wipe out a chicken population in hours. The poultry industry fears quarantine will not stop it entering Australia.
The inspection requirements on arrival in Australia are really just for visual inspection, and just what you can see on visual inspection of frozen product, I don't know. So it really is very token.
Concern also surrounds quarantine's acceptance of a procedure testing for Newcastle disease. Member for Patterson Bob Baldwin claims the test was not carried out correctly.
The bottom line is they shelved it in the bottom drawer, they haven't taken the necessary steps, and there are problems within AQUIS if they accept this as quality testing to make sure that our industry and indeed our native bird species remain disease-free.
The inquiry continues. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
Cover the Franks paid $4.90 and $2 even. Switch to Me $2.60 and Yellow Monday $2.20. The Quinella $18.40 and the Trifecta $126.40. At Grafton, the 7th was the Open Handicap over 1,750 metres. $3, $5 and $1, $12.60 and $3.20, $1.90 and $1.30. The Quinella $31.50 and the Trifecta a little more than $250.